Welcome back to our channel. In today's session, we will explain you about test plan. By seeing this video, you will understand how to prepare a test plan for any testing project. Test plan. Test plan is a document which contains the plan for all the testing activities to be done to deliver a quality product. Test plan document is derived from the product description, system requirement specification, or use case document for all future activities of the project. It is usually prepared by the test lead or test manager. Why we need a test plan for any project? A test plan is a roadmap to testing for a success. If you fail to plan, it means you plan to fail. Test plan is one of the key to successful software testing. By preparing a test plan, we will come to know the issues, risks, dependencies, and assumptions related to the project. Test plan enables us to decide in advance on how the project objectives will be met. It helps to avoid out-of-scope functionalities. It determines the time, cost, and effort required for the project. It provides schedule for testing activities. It provides the resource requirements in terms of software, hardware, and human resource. And finally, it ensures following the test process across all phases of the testing. Purpose of test plan. The purpose of the test plan is to provide an overview of the components that make up the system. The test plan shall also include the testing requirements that must be satisfied by conducting an end-to-end testing process to ensure that all business functionality has been met. The test plan will also include a high-level overview of the testing environment, roles, and responsibilities. Specifically, the plan shall outline the below activities: testing scope and requirements, testing phases and approach, communication process, milestone dates, risks, defect tracking, and test result analysis. Tasks involved in test planning and control. Test planning comprises of the following major tasks. 1. To fix the scope and number of risks and ascertain the goals of testing. 2. To govern the test method. And 3. To execute the test policy or test tactics. Difference between master test plan and test plan. Master test plan contains all the test scenarios and risks prone areas of the application, whereas test plan document contains test cases corresponding to test scenarios. Master test plan captures every test to be run during the overall development of the application, whereas the test plan describes the scope, approach, resources, and schedule for performing the execution. Master test plan includes test scenarios for all the phases of the application development lifecycle, whereas a separate test plan also exists for the unit testing, functional testing, and system testing, which includes cases specific to related areas. Master test plan suffices for big projects which require execution in all phases of testing, whereas preparing a basic test plan is enough for small projects. List the major key characteristics defined in a test plan. Test plan comprises of the following major tasks. 1. Scope and objectives. It will define what will be covered in a project. 2. Resource. It will define what type and number of resources to be used to accomplish the objectives. 3. Schedule. It will define the tasks and their schedules. And the last, 4. Risk. It defines in advance what may happen to derive the plan off course. and what will be done to recover the situation. Guidelines to be followed while preparing a test plan. The list of guidelines to be followed by anyone who involved in the preparation of a test plan document are: make the plan concise, avoid redundancy. If you think you do not need a section that has been mentioned in the template, please go ahead and delete that section in your test plan. Be specific with the detail. You should not provide generic information. Make use of lists and tables wherever possible. Avoid lengthy paragraphs. Have the test plan reviewed by peers and other stakeholders. Ensure approval from respective stakeholders. The quality of a test plan speaks volumes about the quality of the testing you are going to perform. Update the plan as and when necessary. An outdated and unused document stinks and is worse than not having the document in the first place. List of items covered in a test plan document are: test plan identifier, introduction, scope, test approach, item pass fail criteria, suspension criteria and resumption requirements, test deliverables, bug tracking approach, test automation, environmental needs, roles and responsibilities, staffing and training needs, schedule, risks, assumptions and dependencies, and finally document approvals. Plan identifier. A test plan document will commence with a unique test plan identifier. This is unique name or code by which the plan to be identified in the project's documentation, including version. Introduction section in test plan. In this section, we need to provide details about our company and the relationship we have with the customer. Provide the details about the benefits the customer is going to achieve using the system or product we are going to develop. Test plan objectives section. In this section, provide details of the test objectives. It will help all the stakeholders about the importance of the testing. Scope section in test plan document. Scope clauses define what will be covered in a project. Details covered in this section are test items, features to be tested and features not to be tested. First, test items. Items of the software, hardware and combinations of these will be tested. Next is features to be tested. In this section, we will focus on which part of the software specification ought to be tested, like user or customer point of view. Contents depend on level of the test plan, and it will help to focus on software risks. The last one is features not to be tested. In this, we provide which part of the software specifications ought to be excluded. Details like reason for not testing, and normally it lists only low level risk features. Test strategy section in test plan document. In this section, provide the different tests that will verify and validate the system. Briefly explain the purpose of each test considered. First, system test. The system test will focus on the behavior of the system. Objective is to ensure that the integrated system will meet the requirements as defined in the specification. Performance test. Describe the test required to ensure the performance requirements like response time, maximum concurrent users, memory utilization, workload efficiency, etc. Automated test. Describe the automated test developed and the sequence of tests to be run for major changes, that is regression test. Security test. Detail the test required to verify the security related requirements. Stress and volume test. Explain the various input conditions for stressing the system. Recovery test. Describe various tests that will force the system to fail in various ways and verify the recovery is properly performed. Documentation test. Describe the test that will be conducted to check the accuracy of the user documentation. Beta test. Explain the test that would be performed in test environment by client. And user acceptance test. Describe the various tests the client will perform after implementing the system. Test approach section in test plan document. Test approach is the heart of the test plan. It gives details of how the testing process will be followed. Details covered in this section are overview of procedures to carry out testing activities, entry and exit criteria for every level of testing, configuration management, change management, test environment, defect fixing, reviewing and retesting, metrics collection and use of tools. Test environment requirement section in test plan document. It is consists of both hardware and software. Normally both will be same as development environment. Test schedule section in test plan document. Scheduling should be based on realistic and validated estimates for software testing. Schedule specifies when the task will take place. Schedule specifies the build around milestones. Schedule specifies the reference to project schedule. It includes deadlines and estimation and resources are considered during test scheduling. Testing tasks and its efforts that are considered during test schedule preparation are test planning, test analysis, test design, test implementation, test execution, test evaluation, etc. Milestones should be identified with schedules being specified for each milestone as below. Control procedures section in test plan document. We explained the control procedures in detail in the test strategy video of our presentation. You can check for the link in the description box below. Here we will provide high level information. 1. Reviews. Explain the review plan in this section. 2. Bug review meetings. Indicate the frequency of meetings for bug review. Provide the details of who will participate with what information. 3. Change request. Explain the criteria for handling changes to product or system requirements and how they will be addressed. And finally, 4. Defect reporting. Describe the defect reporting and tracking system. Test deliverables section in test plan document. This section is used to specify what is to be delivered as part of this test plan. Few examples of test deliverables are test strategy and test plan, effort estimation document, test scenarios, test cases and test data, requirement traceability metrics document, defect report, test execution report, test metrics, test summary report, test incident report, test closure report, release note, test status report and weekly status report. Pass fail criteria section in test plan document. All the test cases that are prepared by the testing team needs to be passed as per the available requirement document. If any of the test cases failed in the internal integration test phase, then it will be raised as a defect. The defect should be fixed by the development team and it should be verified and confirmed by the testing team before it goes to the next phase. For example, from integration testing to system testing. Entry and exit criteria section in test plan document. Entry and exit criteria are a must for the success of any project. If you do not know where to start and where to finish, then your goals are not clear. By defining entry and exit criteria, you define your boundaries. For instance, you can define entry criteria that the customer should provide the requirement document. If this entry criteria is not met, then you will not start the project. The prerequisites that must be achieved before commencing the testing process. On the other hand, you can also define exit criteria for your project. For instance, one of the common exit criteria in project is that the customer has successfully executed the acceptance test plan. Example for entry criteria for test execution phase. Requirements, test plan and test cases are signed off. Test data is provided or loaded and in a ready state. Unit testing activity must be complete for each of the applications. Test environment must be available and stable. Access through any firewalls must be established prior to test execution. Connectivity between all the individual modules must be up and available. The test environment needs to be identified and secured for the execution team. The required resources are identified to support the test environment. The test environment must have comparable hardware and software as that of the production environment or the environment that was specified in the requirement specification. The testing and development team have the same definition of severity level. This will ensure all the defects are reported in a similar manner. Severity levels should be documented. Deliverables from supporting teams are completed on time to prevent any delay to the testing effort. Code, test data, databases and tables are test ready from the application team's perspective, and environments are all functioning and interoperating properly. Suspension or exit criteria section in test plan document. In the test plan, explain the conditions or criteria under which the test will be suspended. For example, if any defects are found which seriously impact the test progress, the project manager may choose to suspend testing. Criteria that will justify test suspensions are: hardware software is not available at the times indicated in the project schedule, source code contains one or more critical defects which seriously prevents or limits testing progress, assigned test resources are not available when needed by the testing team. Resumption criteria section in test plan document. In the test plan, explain the conditions or criteria under which the test will be resumed. If testing is suspended, resumption will only occur when the problem that caused the suspension has been resolved. When a critical defect is the cause of the suspension, the defect fix must be verified by the testing coordinator before testing is resumed. Test completion criteria section in test plan document. Completion means knowing when to stop. You can test forever and still not cover every possibility. The goal is to guarantee a quality product that is satisfactory to the users in a finite amount of time. Risk analysis and equivalence analysis can help to reduce the amount of testing. Metrics can determine the release threshold. Function points covered, time between failures, number of tests completed can all be used to determine a reasonable stopping point. The test completion criteria could be all black box test cases are run, white box test coverage targets are met, rate of fault discovery goes below a target value, target percentage of all faults in the system are found, measured reliability of the system achieves its target value, test phase time or resources are adjusted. Dependencies section in test plan document. Here you need to detail the different dependencies. 1. Personal dependencies. 2. Software dependencies. 3. Hardware dependencies, and the last is test data and database dependencies. Documentation in test plan. List the documentation that will be prepared within the project and that will be provided to client. Bug tracking approach. First activity in bug tracking approach is defect reporting. The testing team need to enter the defect information in the test management tool. Next activity is setting the priority and severity for the defect. Testing team need to categorize the defect and analyze the impact of the defect on the system. Then set the priority level. Then assign it to the development team with a time frame and track the defect. Next activity is fixing the defect by the development team. The development team will review the new defect, then decide on fixing the defect. If it is a defect, then it will continue on fixing the defect, else they will reject the same by providing a proper reason. Then set the status of the new defect to open in the test management tool. Assign the defect to a member of the development team. The member of the development team will identify the cause of the defect, then modify and rebuild the application as per the requirement. Next activity is retesting. Testing team will carry out a retest on a new build after the defect is fixed. If a defect doesn't reoccur, change defect status to closed. If a defect is detected again, assign it with a status reopen. Next activity is monitoring. It is done by the senior member of the team. Statistics about the defect report can be prepared and viewed to analyze through graphs. How many defects are repaired and how many still open and how many defects reoccurred. Similarly, he will analyze the defect report to determine the system reliability and when it can be released. Next activity is causal analysis. In this, the team will analyze how many defects were there and how many were repeated again, and what is the root cause and how it can be prevented, and what should be done to prevent. The measures should be taken during this phase. The last activity of bug tracking approach is verifying effectiveness of cross-sell analysis. Check whether the preventive action was effective. If it is effective, it is good. If not, then the management need to look at the existing process where they need improvement. From next phase, the identified new process should be followed for better effectiveness. Test automation section in test plan document. Briefly mention the scope for automation, strategy for identification, development and maintenance of automation test scripts here. It consists of the features that are to be automated and which features are not to be automated. If a feature is frequently tested, then it can be automated. Separate test plan will be prepared for test automation and the same will be circulated to all the stakeholders. Test report section in test plan document. On completing the test, a report on the test will be provided to all the stakeholders that covers the following: number of high-level business requirements that have been covered in the test. As part of test cases, provide the number of test cases that are planned, number of test cases executed, number of test cases passed, number of test cases failed, number of test cases retested, number of test cases pending for retesting, and number of test cases not executed. Under defects, provide the number of defects raised, number of defects closed, number of defects re-raised, number of defects not closed, and provide open defect summary. Testing tools section in test plan document. Detail the different tools planned to use for test execution of the project. For example, test management tools. It is used to develop and store test plans and scripts and track the progress of script execution. Incident tracking tools. It is used to create, manage and report the problems found during testing. Automated test tools. It is used to automate test scripts for regression test purposes. These automated scripts enable faster execution of test scripts during regression testing. Stress or performance testing tools. It is used to test a system at anticipated load levels for the purpose of identifying problems in resource contention, response time, storage containment, and overall performance. Configuration management tools. It is used to manage versions and updates to all work products from plans to models to test scripts and code. Approval section in the test plan document. Approval states who can consent a process as complete and allow the project to proceed to the next stage. This depends on the level of test plan and can differ from a test team leader to a more executive employee. The type of knowledge at each level of test plan differs significantly. For example, programmers may understand the technical side of the software but not the managerial or commercial side. Similarly, testers may understand the business and functional requirements but not the managerial or commercial side. Test plan for different levels of testing. Major considerations are the same but differ in scope. Scope depends on the level of testing. Level specific test plan, which includes master test plan, unit test plan, integration test plan, system test plan, acceptance, unit test plan and integration test plan. Both of these test plans start during the execution phase and continue until the final delivery. System test plan. System test plan starts during the design phase and proceeds until the end of the project. Acceptance test plan. Acceptance test plan normally prepared by the end customer. This document commences during the requirement phase and is completed at final delivery. On what basis the acceptance test plan prepared? In any project, the acceptance document is normally prepared using the following inputs. This can vary from company to company and from project to project. 1. Requirement document. This document specifies what exactly is needed in the project from the customer perspective. 2. Input from customer. This can be on discussions, informal talks, emails, etc. 3. Project plan. The project plan prepared by the project manager also serves as the good input to finalize your acceptance test. Roles and responsibilities section in test plan document. This section is used to specify the roles and responsibilities of the team members. For example, tester. The responsibilities include creating test cases and test data, designing test cycles, executing the test, verifying and analyzing the test results, raising, retesting and closing the defects, performing causal analysis and preparing summary report for every release. Test lead. Responsibilities include review of test cases and test data, day-to-day interaction with the client, allocate activities and tasks to the team members, chair weekly review meetings with the team to ensure smooth delivery of releases, guide the team and provide solutions towards any problem faced by the team member, escalate matters requiring immediate attention, coordinate change management activities, and ensure the overall project quality along with the corrective action with respect to causal analysis. Test manager. Responsibility includes resource planning based on the release plan, overall status monitoring of activities and report monthly status to client, plan, review and request for required personnel, hardware and software resources, coordinate with external support groups within organization, work on process improvement activities, focus on timely deliveries and quality deliverables, and identify access, control and plan contingency measures. Staffing and training needs section in test plan document. In this section, list the required staff details with their competency level along with the training needed for them to execute the project. For example, training on the application or system, training on any testing tools to be used in the project. Risk section in test plan document. List the risks that are identified in your project. For example, the testing phase may get delayed from the original plan due to the late start of the testing team. Any unusual activities apart from the testing deliverables may create risk in terms of deliverable time. Delay in build from any one of the development team may impact the testing time frame. It is mandatory that all the individual development teams need to deliver the build in time to testing team in order to execute the integration and system testing. Lack of support from the development teams for troubleshooting, correcting and retesting of the system discrepancies. Test environment instability would delay testing. We provided only a few risks here. We will share a detailed presentation on risk and mitigation, assumptions and dependencies later. Assumptions section in test plan document. In this section, list the assumptions that are identified in your project. For example, requirements and business rules are stable for the duration of the testing period. The test data will be in place. It will be provided either by client or by development team. Both hardware and software systems will be operational and communicating. The testing team will conduct end-to-end testing in software, which closely mirrors the production environment. All the development modules complete their unit and functional testing successfully prior to the beginning of integration and end-to-end system testing. All the applicable interfaces will be unit tested successfully prior to start system integration testing. The testing team can execute only those test cases for which test data is available. Dependencies section in test plan document. In this section, list the dependencies that are identified in your project. For example, timely delivery of hardware, software and project documentation, delivery of the client network on time. With every change in the development schedule, dates for the testing must be adjusted by the project manager to allow the testing team sufficient time to perform the required amount of testing agreed upon. The change in schedule or scope of testing should be communicated and agreed to by the test manager. The changed schedule should not impact the number of days agreed upon for testing or retesting. An updated work plan should be made available to the testing team to ensure that the testing duration is not being compressed. Delivery of the external systems interface documentation on time to execute detailed design and create steps for integration testing, that is, third-party interfaces. When to stop testing, or how do you decide when you have tested enough? There are many factors involved in real-time projects to decide when to stop testing. We will stop testing when requirement coverage reaches a specified point. We will stop testing on completion of testing deadlines or release deadlines. We will stop testing on completion of testing budget. We will stop testing by reaching the decided pass percentage of test cases. We will stop testing when the risk in the project is under acceptable limit. We will stop testing when all the high priority bugs and blockers are fixed. We will stop testing when acceptance criteria is met. We will stop testing when the alpha and beta testing period ends. And we will stop testing on guidance from management decision. Tasks performed during test closure activities. Test closure gives a summary of all the tests conducted during the software development lifecycle and also gives a detailed analysis of the bugs removed and errors found. It is to see which strategic deliverables are really delivered and to safeguard that all the incident reports have been successfully resolved. It is to confirm and document the testware such as writings, testing environments, etc. for future reuse. It is to deliver the testware to the maintenance team. They will give sustenance to the software. It is to assess how the testing actually went and acquire lessons for upcoming releases and ventures. The testing process ends only when the below are confirmed. 1. Check the completion of test. 2. Handover of test objects. 3. Preparation of lessons learned document. And finally, 4. archival of essential reports, and circulate the details to all the stakeholders involved in the project and the organization as a whole. Approval section in test plan document. This class contains the signatures of the various stakeholders in the plan to show that they agree in advance with what it says. It contains various stakeholders' signature, different approvers for different levels of test plan, and approvers should involve in the creation or review of the plan. What are baseline documents? Baseline documents are the documents which have been approved by the customer and will not have any more changes. Baseline documents cover all the details of the project and have undergone walkthrough process. Baseline documents cannot be changed unless there is a change request duly approved by the customer. Service level agreement and business requirement documents are the examples for baseline documents. During which test activity could fault be found most cost effectively? During test planning. As part of which test process do you determine the exit criteria? The exit criteria are determined on the basis of test planning. Purpose of requirement phase. Requirement phase helps us to freeze requirements, to understand user needs, and to define the scope of testing. How do you test a product if the requirements are yet to be freezed? If the required specifications are not available for a product, then a test plan can be created based on the assumptions made about the product. But we should get all assumptions well documented in the test plan. When should configuration management procedures be implemented? During test planning. With this, we conclude our today's topic on test plan. We will again connect with you very soon. Thank you for watching our channel.